Alright, so I am back and just got out of Star Wars. I'll save my thoughts on that for tomorrow or something like that, just because I want to let it process for a little bit, because I don't. Yeah, we'll let it process for a day before I start giving a full assessment. But so today, because I realized we only have 2 Sundays before the end of the year, so only 2 more rants of the week. So I think it's a perfect time to start the top 10 best and top 10 worst of the figures so far this year. So we're going to start off with the worst. Hopefully, because Galvatron will be here very soon. Hopefully I don't have to revise this and add Galvatron to the list. But we'll see. First off, honorable mention goes to the Bad Cubes Collectors Insecticons. Now these guys, don't get me wrong. Like I said, the value pack ones are pretty solid. I really like them, but I don't think they're ready to do those collectors ones with the die cast and stuff like that. And it didn't play out as well as these guys did. These guys are worth the money. I think. I think they're worthwhile, but the collector's versions, not so much. They're not bad enough to really be on the list, but I did want to mention them. And we'll get right into the top 10. So number 10, X-Transbot Scourge. Okay, so you guys saw my review of that not too long ago. You know, feel free to go through my old videos and take a look at any of these guys I reviewed. I would put links in the description below, but I really don't have the time for that. But before we really get into this, I want to remind everyone, this is my opinion and of figures that I owned or was able to play with throughout the year. This isn't every single bad figure that there was, because I'm sure there was a whole bunch of bad figures. These are the ones that I had a bad experience with, and the ones that I felt and that I owned. So, you know, if you guys have a difference of opinion, you're not wrong. Feel free for this rant of the week, just like the next one, put down your list below of your top 10 worst from 2015. A couple of these I think came out technically 2014, but I didn't get them until 2015, so I'm going to count them in this year. But again, my opinion, my thoughts. If you guys don't agree with it, that's cool. Just let me know. So number 10, X-Transbot Scourge. Now this list was actually pretty hard to do because a lot of the figures I had this year were actually pretty good. There were a few standout, like, oh my god, what am I looking at kind of thing. But X-Transbot Scourge, he was one that I had there been something else, I would have taken him off the list. My big issues with him were the feet transformation and the fact that the plastic would chip off, or the paint would chip off so easily because of they didn't clean the molds or clean the figure before they painted it. Outside of that, it was a pretty good figure. I didn't like it because of everything, but because of those 2 major issues. But the plastics quality was pretty top notch. The fingers were decent, better than I expected when it comes to the individually articulated fingers, and really my main issues, like I said, were the foot transformation, which was just a nightmare, and the paint chipping. You don't clean the plastic before you paint it; it's going to do that, and that's very unfortunate. Because had they altered that foot transformation, like I said in the video, they would have put a hinge in there so that you can move that foot out easier and clean the molds before they painted them, that figure would be in probably my top 10 best list. He'd be sitting on my shelf right now because I would have bought another one just for me, because outside of those 2 issues, I thought he was pretty good. But because of those 2 issues, it's not a figure I want to own, because I don't like my figures to have paint chips just because I transformed it. Number 9, Combiner Wars Optimus Prime. That thing was just... I hate that thing. I absolutely hated that thing. There's nothing about it that made me go, well, at least it has... No, it has nothing about it that makes me go, well, it's at least, No, that mold was better as Motormaster. It was too flat. Had monkey-type arms. Transformation was wonky. The fact that it was the core bot to a combiner doesn't work with me. And the head was tiny. Just all around, I did not like that figure. The white one, same issues could be said about it. I haven't owned the white one. I don't plan on owning the white one. It's not on my to get list. But all in all, I think it failed at being an Optimus Prime. Now, somebody earlier today was telling me that they said that for its price, it wasn't that bad. My argument is the fact that Classics Prime was $10 cheaper, and it's a much better figure. I know the prices have gone up, and I know their plastic quality has gone down, but there's a very big difference between two Voyagers then and now. Yeah, the new one's a little bit bigger, but the old one's a much better figure. Much higher quality figure, and I still have him because I love that figure. So there's no excuse for it other than they wanted to make a combiner. And they're like, oh, he's a truck, so we're going to make it Optimus Prime. So, number 8 is actually pretty much an entire wave of Combiner Wars figures. And I know this whole list is not Combiner Wars heavy. I think there's 3 of them on there. But number 8 is Combiner Wars Wave 4. Now, the Prowl was decent. I did enjoy that Prowl, I won't lie. The Mirage was crap. The Sunstreaker was just abysmal. And Ironhide, I hate that thing. I legitimately hate that thing. And that goes back into the problem of let's repaint things from molds that slightly resemble an alt mode that they potentially could have. It made no sense. It didn't feel right. It didn't look right. They just I could not stand that one. This whole year I've been ranting about Combiner Wars, so it's not gonna end now, I guess. It's just gonna keep going on because the Combiner Wars keeps shelling out crap. Alright, number 7. Now, so number 7 was a figure that I actually gave a pretty good score to when I reviewed it, but then quickly retracted that. And that's a Bullfire Swoop. Now, this is one I think came out in 2014. Not 2015, but I didn't get it until this year, so I put it on this list. Mostly because, again, unless I were to divide out the Combiner Wars, there's not that many bad figures, like truly bad figures this year. And it's not like last year where we had Ollie to look forward to at the end of all the bad lists. But anyway, so the figure was decent, but then the arm shattered on me when I was transforming it one day. Like the day after I did the review, saying, "Oh, this thing is pretty cool." I've seen, and clearly nobody's interested in it, so the company's not going to go anywhere with the set. They're done. They're not going to make any more Dinobots. They said they would, but I would really be surprised if we ever hear from them again. But the problems, like I said, the arm shattered. I contacted Big Bad Toy Store. I said, "Hey, arm shattered on my dude. Is there anything we can do?" And they're just like, "Well, you can send it back and we get your money back, but we're out of replacement parts." So by saying they're out of replacement parts means that I'm not the only one that happened to. So being the fact that he's scaled with the MP Grimlock, which is not scaled with the MP line, and the fact that all these stores are sitting on piles of stocks of these things. I've seen them clearance all the way down to $100. That's 50% off. That's $100 off. And they're still not selling. And I wouldn't want them to sell it. And all they really did, though, was copy the Seeker mold and utilize that, that design, and they still fucked it up. Seriously. Number 6, Perfect Effect Leo Prime. Now here was a figure that's like the plastic quality was awesome, the paint was awesome, the execution was not done well. Lots of tiny parts, lots of easily breakable parts. When I transformed mine, I was terrified that something was going to break. And there's a reason why I'm not holding up the figures on this list, because I don't own them. Most of these things. No. I don't own any of these anymore because I didn't like any of them. The Leo Prime was a giveaway figure, but still, it wasn't worthwhile for me to keep it, to buy another one, because it's just like the cost was too high. The lion mode was a joke. Robot mode was good, but it still didn't feel quite right to me. And like I said, there'd be so many tiny little pieces that are on such small friction joints that you're so terrified when you're moving like the tail, like, oh, this is gonna snap. This has to snap, and you're just waiting for that to happen. And a lot of people broke theirs, so I know I'm not the only one sitting here saying that it wasn't a great figure, but it had definite issues, and they could have done that a lot better, and it didn't make any sense for them to do that figure to begin with. It's, they did the Fort Max, or at least the head of Fortress Maximus. I can't remember his name, but they did him, and he was awesome. But the transformation was just wonky out the ass. But and it's just like, why would you do Leo Prime and not Scorponok? Do his rival. You don't want to do one character and then just move on to something else later on. That's the problem with the MP line when they did Optimus Prime. They did Optimus Prime, but they didn't do a new Megatron. So we're left without a Megatron. DX9, they did Carrie, and now they're doing Galvatron. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. You want to get the rivals going. You don't want to just make one figure from G1 and then make a completely different figure from a completely different line and different generation of Transformers, and then and claim that it's good, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It was not on my top 10 figures to buy. When that first was announced, I was like, that thing, I don't want anything to do with it. The only reason why I got it was because it was for the giveaway. Number 5, Combiner Wars Minosaur. Oh, I'll refer you to Bobby Skullface's review of it when he tries to throw it against the wall. That skit's worth the whole video. If nothing else, that little skit he does is awesome. He's just kind of like so nonchalant, just and then he tosses it to the wall. That thing was horrendous looking. Perfect Effect tried to fix it. They didn't fix it right. It was an all-around mess. The individual bots were decent. Wild Rider. Wild Rider wasn't even part of the original lineup, so we had to, buy him extra. Then we had, Off-Road, which was a good figure, but, he wasn't part of the original team, so it was one of those, like, okay, he's here. Breakdown was, that the mold sucks. Dead End was pretty good. Motor Master was pretty good aside from combined mode, and it just looks like such a mess. Doesn't hold together. You move the arm and the whole shoulder assembly falls apart. It just, there's nothing about that figure that set that really made me sit there and go, all right, at least there's this. It was really more of a, well, I spent set amount of dollars on this thing. Maybe I can resell it. That's the only thing I can think of to do with stuff like that. Number 4, X-Transbot's Megatron, Apollyon, whatever you want to call it. That thing, no. I refused to transform mine because of the fact that I didn't want to destroy the figure in the process. And then after they released it, that's when X-Transbot, released that statement saying, oh, hey, by the way, you're not supposed to transform these things. These things are supposed to be, collector pieces and left in robot mode. It's like, yeah, right. Fuck you. No, the paint chips off. If you watch my review of it, I flip one single panel on the thing so that I can get the mace attached. One panel, and that panel never went back right. It never did. And that was one panel. This whole thing was filled with stuff like that. And I'm just like, I moved one thing. And now the figure's, nowhere near what it was. So, I don't know. I think they really could have executed that thing a lot better. Infinitely better. And then the bullshit of, okay, we're going to release it for $150 for the first wave. Get everybody wanting this figure. And then we're going to up the price on it to $165. And it's like, why would you do that? Let's see here. Number 3. This is, again, I think this came out in late 2014. But I didn't get it till 2015. But it was the Microblaze Creations Onslaught. That plastic quality was just crap. Absolute crap. The execution of the figure itself was just garbage. Parts forming when it didn't need to be parts forming. The end result of it looked good. Don't get me wrong, I did like it. It was just like Apollyon and Scourge. I think those guys look good on the shelf. Just, you can't touch them. And I'm not in this to get figures that I can't touch ever. So that, it just didn't work. It did not work for them. It sold out everywhere, and I think it's because a lot of companies had to replace broken ones. Because I had 2 sets. The first set I had, it's like, okay, so I'm supposed to turn the snap. It just right away, just snapped it right off. I was like, awesome, just awesome. Thanks, guys. Number 2, Mega Steel Megatron. Here's a figure. I reviewed it right before I went to TFCon, and this thing was just garbage. There is nothing about that figure that made me sit there and think, this is good. The cannon was too small, but too long at the same time. It was too long going forward, but not long enough going back. Megatron always had the big fusion cannon that would cover his whole arm. Like this. He had, like this whole section was gone, and it was just that front part, and it didn't feel right. The head sculpt was off. The transformation was just abysmal. The little dinky weapons was just ridiculous, and the fact that he scales with nothing of any relevance at this point. If he was Orion sized, then it would be like, okay, I can see where you're going. At least he's Orion sized. But he's Classics Prime size, and we already have 2 Megatrons in Classics Prime scale. We have the Classics Megatron. And we have Hegemon. So we have 2, and Hegemon's a much better figure than this thing. And Hegemon made my list last year, mostly because of the price. just didn't make sense. So the whole thing was just a mess, just an absolute mess. I could not stand it. And number one, no surprise here, I'm sure, was Lone Wolf. Who I can't even remember who made that thing, but that was the whole new body for the Minosaur for Combiner Wars. They're saying that they're going to be making a whole line of cars, the Stunticons to go with them, but honestly, if that company survives, I'm going to be surprised. That thing was just crap. The paint was crap. The plastic quality was not even subpar. I mean, not even. The design of it, the feel of it, the transformation, the everything about that figure felt wrong. It just sucked at every possible thing. The fact that, they incorporated the truck mode with the entire trailer with the robot. Okay, that's cool. But the truck mode is in small chug scale, not even Combiner Wars scale. It's in small chug scale, and the robot is in masterpiece scale. That's the problem you have when you try to build something like that. They should have taken, I know Motormaster always was the cab and trailer, but they should have done something like take the trailer off and use that as combiner parts, and use the cab as the core robot. They should have done something like that. This just did not work out in any way, shape, or form, and that is why he is my number one worst figure of 2015. And it's just like, that thing had potential, and they could have pulled that off, and it was garbage. It was absolute garbage. Could not stand it. Most of these figures on this list had potential. This one, as is potential. Like, if they made, like Micro Blaze Creations, if the figure was made with better plastics and imagine if MMC had the rights to that figure and made it in their plastic quality, that would be that would still be sitting on my shelf, because that thing would have been awesome. X-Transbot Scourge and Apollyon, had they done better with the paint and the QC on the joints and stuff like that, then we could have been, I would have that Apollyon sitting on my shelf again. I'd have the Scourge sitting on my shelf. I'd be ecstatic. I'd probably have 3 or 4 of them. Leo Prime, okay, no, that one. Let's see here. The Mega Steel Megatron. There's a good figure, a good example. Had they done better with quality control and upscaled him a little bit to be Orion size, then you would have had a perfect figure to go up against Orion, and it would have made a lot of sense to have it. As it is, it's like a over $100 figure, and you can go buy Classics Prime or Classics Megatron for like $20 loose, or like $50 mint in box, or you can go buy a Hegemon, which is a better figure for the same price, and he transforms into a gun and not a tank, and he looks like G1 Megatron. So it's like, why buy this figure at that scale? So anyway, so what were your guys' thoughts on the on this list? What are your opinions? And what was your top 10 worst figures? And yeah, I would say, if you really hated a wave of Combiner Wars figures, throw that in there, because that's what I did. While there were merits in the wave, it's like I did not want to sit there and be like, okay, number 1, Combiner Wars Sunstreaker. Number 2, Combiner Wars Ironhide. Number 3, Combiner Wars Mirage. Number 4, Combiner Wars Optimus Prime. Number 5, Combiner Wars Breakdown. The whole list would be Combiner Wars if I did that. Yeah. So, anyway, what are you guys' list? And then next week we'll be doing the top 10 best figures, and with any luck, we will get Galvatron on that list. So, fingers crossed.